Hello, good afternoon. My name is Batifa Kende, and now I am in Dr. Brenda Gill's class, Social Problems Section 1. I'll be presenting on Chapter 10, and the title is Politics and Economy. This chapter explains how socialist and capitalist economies work, and also explains how the economy is linked to politics and the way power is used to make decisions and set policies. There will be 5 major sections in this presentation. 1. Economic systems defining justice and problems. 2. The economy and politics. 3. Problems of the U.S. political economy. 4. Theories of economic and political problems. And the last one, going on from here. Economic systems defining justice and problems. One way to think about economy is in terms of justice. The operation of the economic system determines who gets what and is built on claims about what is fair. The operation of the economy also has a lot to do with what issues end up being defined as social problems. We begin with a brief look at the two broad economic models, capitalism and socialism. Capitalism, an economic system in which natural resources and the means of producing goods and services are privately owned. In a capitalist system, individual men and women own a society's productive property, including investment banks, healthcare corporations, auto factories, large farms, and even hardwood forests. Capitalism also creates a special culture or way of thinking about the world. The culture of capitalism teaches people to think that everyone should behave according to their own self-interest. According to the Scottish economist Adam Smith, the pursuit of self-interest has widespread benefit because as people are guided by their self-interest, an economy ends up producing the greatest good for the greatest number of people. Now that we have talked about capitalism, let's take a look at what socialism is. Socialism, an economic system in which natural resources and the means of producing goods and services are collectively owned. In a socialism economy, government limits the right of individuals to own productive property. Instead, the government own and operate factories, offices, and farms, claims to do so in the interest of the people as a whole. Karl Marx, a socialist, claims that the capitalism private ownership of productive property is what creates unequal social classes. This is a vivid map of the world showing all the countries and the type of economies under which they operate. The countries in the blue operate under a mostly capitalist economy. The countries in orange operate under a mostly socialist economy, and the countries in beige operate under a mixed economy. proceed in discussing economy and politics, let's consider the following terms. Political economy, the closely linked economic and political life of a nation or world region. Democracy, a political system in which power is exercised by the people as a whole. Authoritarianism, a political system that denies popular participation in government. Monarchy, a political system in which a single family rules from generation to generation. Monopoly, the domination of an entire market by a single company. And the last one, oligopoly, the domination of a market by a few companies. The next section talks about problems of the US political economy. Let's look at the great power of large corporations.
Founded in 1876 by Thomas Edison, EG had grown to be one of the largest corporations in the world. Company by company, EG had diversified its stake into as many industries as possible. EG's technological innovations quickly improved the standard of living for Americans and consumers around the world. However, altruism was never part of its corporate strategy. The 20th century brought about the manifestation of EG's corporate strategy of profit-seeking. Corporations began harming their customers and having any details deemed too sensitive for the general public. They based societal claims against cigarettes, pesticides such as DDT, and global warming. Guided by profit objectives, corporations began supporting the lucrative war and military efforts of their governments, thereby entrenching themselves into the political affairs of the world's most powerful nations. EG was among these corporations. Simultaneously, EG continued to acquire media conglomerates, which were then used to portray the giant corporation in a positive light. Thus, the public remained ignorant. September 11, 2001 paralyzed the world with fear and resulted in the voluntary handover of the essential rights and liberties of the American public to the American government. In a matter of months, EG began using this information in order to develop its corporate strategies, thus gaining an immeasurable competitive advantage. In 2008 U.S. elections, EG heavily funded the elected president's campaign. Outcry arose in response to the use of EG's polling software for the election. EG used its media influence to alter documentation, plant false stories, and downplay any involvement that the corporation had in the elections. By 2010, all remaining critics had been arrested on charges involving terrorism, drugs, rape, or corporate crime. Information exposing EG in a negative light disappeared, and the circulation of entertainment television and digital propaganda intensified. By 2013, EG was the largest media conglomerate in the world and had one of the largest defense contracting businesses. Crippled by EG's budding monopoly, the Fox Broadcasting Company filed a lawsuit against EG. To the shock of 1,000 critics, the U.S. Supreme Court ruled in favor of EG. Shortly thereafter, Fox was acquired by EG through a hostile takeover. By 2018, numerous conspiracy theorists were convinced large corporations fully control the government. However, these voices of protest were quickly silenced. Their blogs, YouTube videos, and families were all removed from the public eye, never to be seen again. All doubt had been eliminated. The population was under the control of a very powerful entity, and any protests were crushed without hesitation. In the 2020s, an absence of competition and drive deteriorated the standard of living for most citizens. People were living poorly and working 18-hour days in order to survive. Furthermore, EG began to quickly replicate its business model in other nations, acquiring international firms, controlling international media giants, and funding foreign government officials. In 2025, the North American Union was formed through the influence of EG to combat the continued dominating Euro. Slowly, each continent followed suit, creating the Asian Union, African Union, and so on. The world changed its appearance. By 2030, EG gained control of world leaders and governments in the same way it had cultivated its dominance in America. Global control was held by a handful of powerful governments, all supported by and in collaboration with EG. By 2032, the corporation had enough power to overtly arbitrate a global leadership summit called the One World Committee. Through this summit, EG's world domination plans were truly revealed. It was here that the global leaders met and agreed to one global constitution. The global union was justified to the public as a solution to the deteriorating standard of life. Incidentally, the appointed global president was former EG CEO George Prescott Rockefeller Bush. The Universal Declaration of Human Rights was radically changed. Any critics of the new government were immediately silenced. Today, millions of people worldwide are oppressed for the sake of the few. Any and all resistance is forced to hide or is eradicated. EG has overt power over the world government. Humanity has surrendered. People have resigned to a purposeless, miserable, and oppressed existence.
In the United States, large corporations are economic giants, each with more than 26 billion in annual revenue. Together, these businesses are responsible for most corporation production in the United States, and this share has been increasing in the recent decades. The power of money also involves campaign financing. A reality of political life in the United States is that running for office is very expensive. It was predicted that in the 2012 presidential elections, Barack Obama and Mitt Romney would spend more than $1 billion on their campaigns. Campaign funds come from campaign contributions, comes from political parties, and individual donations. Other groups including labor unions, civil rights groups, and women organizations also provide funds with expectation for favor from the government thereafter. Now let's talk about theories of economic and political problems. There are two theories used to describe U.S. political problems. One is structural functional analysis theory. This is ruled by many. The other is social conflict analysis theory, which is ruled by the few. Guided by structural functional theory, the plural model states that power is widely dispersed throughout U.S. society. Organizations compete for voter support and often operate as veto groups so that no single organization can dominate the political system. Just as economic competition results in the greatest good for the greatest number, competition between organizations and between candidates for popular support result in sound policy. Guided by social conflict theory, the power elite model states that the U.S. political system is dominated by a power elite made up of the top leaders in country's corporation, military, and government. A more radical social conflict approach is the Mises political economy model, which shifts the focus from elites to the capitalist system, which concentrates wealth and power in the hands of a few. In conclusion, both Karl Marx and Adam Smith had it right, or at least partly right. The market economy is very productive, but it also generates considerably economic inequality. So in my opinion, every nation should be able to practice the economic system that best suits them so long as the citizens are happy.